You're listening to Armchair Radio, where every week we scour the web for the most off-the-wall or interesting news, all just to help you kill your day. From aliens to Atari and even Kanye West, we have something for everyone. And now, without further ado, your host, Chad and Brannon.
So I saw the fight after the fact on a bootleg copy that somebody took of their big screen TV. It was a nice TV, but their fire alarm detector was low on batteries. And so every now and then you get that horrible chirp.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And the nature of it, I kept thinking it was in my house somewhere. Because like I started playing it, it was like, cheap. And I was like, you don't know where it's coming from. And so I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from.
That shit is so annoying. How could they not realize, like...
It didn't matter. I watched the whole fucking thing because it was like, I was committed. I was like, oh, well. And, I mean, it was it was kind of wobbly because he was like handheld. You know, and then it was really odd, like contextually, because I heard all the commentary and it sounded so weird because there was no crowd. I couldn't tell how many of the sounds were coming from the commentary in the film or how many people were in this dude's room talking with him, especially since it was Snoop Dogg. And so Snoop Dogg's talking. I'm like, oh, is this dude's buddy? Or no, Snoop Dogg. I'm like, well, he wouldn't be in this dude's house, so I guess he's there.
What, did you get to see the whole thing or just the Tyson fight or what?
What do you mean, whole thing? There's another fight?
Oh, yeah, there was like 2 other fights, I think.
Oh, shit. No, I didn't see the other 2.
Yeah, the one before that was Jake Paul and forget the other guy's name. He's cool. A basketball player, so I'm not a big sports guy.
Yeah.
Oh, Nate Robinson, that's who it was.
I'm drawing a blank on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know who Jake Paul was. Apparently he's a big YouTube star.
Okay.
Videos, kind of controversial.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to look him up.
What's controversial about him?
Well, there's one YouTube video that's 10 reasons to hate Jake Paul.
His name is literally Jake Paul, like 2 first names. Jake Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
That's such a fake name.
Last name or like his middle name. Maybe it's Jake Paul, Richardson, and I don't know.
Jake Paul.
Yeah, so he's like a YouTube star. Had a channel, millions of viewers, whatever, does pranks and stuff, but apparently he's kind of racist and kind of a bully and stuff like that.
Okay.
Then Nate Robinson, I believe he retired from basketball, or they said he used to be in the NBA, so I'm not too sure if he retired or whatever.
Right.
But it was Nate Robinson's first fight and Jake Paul's second fight, and I don't know, it was just really weird. Like it was like watching 2 people that aren't really boxers. Jake Paul definitely he's been training. So he definitely looked more like a boxer, but it was really weird, man. Like, so
his conditioning was stronger, seeming.
Yeah, and Nate just look. I'm not a boxing aficionado or anything, but man, Nate looked like he's trying to street fight, and yeah, Jake Paul just had a little more stance or whatever.
Okay. But
what I thought was weird, one, they didn't have a crowd, so that was definitely weird. They had Snoop Dogg on the commentary panel. And it was promoted by Weed Maps.
Right, I saw that in the back. That was pretty strange.
Yeah, and look, it was all cool. Snoop was funny. I love Snoop. It was hilarious, but it definitely wasn't what I was expecting from like a pay-per-view fight.
Yeah, was it supposed to be like $50 a person or something?
Yeah, so it was like $49.99 or whatever to rent the pay-per-view. And look, it all went to charity, so I mean, that's great.
That's something. Yeah.
Well, apparently, I mean, the way the whole thing was put together, it wasn't for serious.
Oh,
I guess.
Okay. I mean, I would believe it because they sparred in there. They weren't really fighting.
Yeah, it seemed like Tyson definitely held back. I really wanted to see him knock him out.
Dude, that's why I looked at all the old videos.
You know what I mean? I wanted to see like a fucking hit.
And I mean, he had some connections. Like I just re-looked at like a highlights reel. There was maybe 7 or 8 nice connections in there against Roy Jones Jr. And I don't know. Roy Jones just kept fucking grabbing him every time.
I was going to say that. Like,
he was pitiful.
Way too much. I mean, you could tell that Roy Jones Jr.
He was not ready.
Super tired.
He was not ready. They said that multiple times too. They're like, man, he is looking tired. And between rounds, he would be like,
yeah.
And then there's Tyson just, he's just waiting like a little schoolboy.
Yeah. But yeah, I was really just hoping to see fucking Tyson knock him out. And Unfortunately, I'm glad I didn't pay for it. Let's just say that.
Yes, I had the same thought, dude. Absolutely same thought. I was like, oh yeah, this is exactly the right way to watch this.
Yeah,
Maybe not the way I did it, but
I wasn't even planning on watching it. I forgot about it, and we were supposed to play D&D.
Right. Yeah.
Two of the guys couldn't play. There's only 3 of us plus the dungeon master, so we were like, well, we're already carrying 1 player until January, but the dungeon master just rolls for him, and we make the decisions or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, so to do that with 3 of the 5 players,
that's a bit much. You might as well just play by yourself. You're like a 6th wheel.
Just watch the fight. Jake did end up like knocking him out.
Okay, so it did end up having some excitement to it.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, dude, like that dude Nate looked like, he definitely was in shape, but he did not look prepared to be in a boxing ring. And Jake Paul knocked him down. Yeah, he knocked him down in the first round. I don't think he was going to get up.
He probably didn't have any defense, huh? He just was just going to run in there and punch.
Well, that's exactly what he did. Like whenever the bell rang, he just like literally charged forward and started like throwing hands. And Snoop even made a comment, something like, "Oh boy, take your basketball shoes on, put your boxing shoes on, but basketball, slow it down." But like I said, it just funny. felt like a joke, really. You know
like
what I mean?
SNL?
It was
like an SNL short,
right? Like, hey, we got these old guys in a ring. Hey, come see.
Come poke at them.
Right.
But anyway, no, wait. What did you want to talk about though?
One of the controversies with all the votes in all these different states and whatever is people started trying to put Benford's law and apply it to voting. Have you heard of Benford's law?
I actually haven't, no.
So I want to say it's back in the 1800s. He was a physicist. And I looked it up, and there's a couple of varying stances on it. One page says Frank Benford himself discovered this, and another says an astronomer, Simon Newcomb. So I'm not too sure which one actually did it. But
it's not Newcomb's law.
Well, some people will say that it's called the Newcomb-Benford law.
Oh, Newcomb-Benford.
Yeah, but everything else that I've seen has referred to it as Benford's law.
Okay.
So back then they didn't have calculators, and so they had what's called log tables, and essentially it would just give the answer to multiplication tables, starting with 1 times 1, 1 times 2, all the way down. I don't know how long it went. And then, the next page or whatever, it would go on to 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 4. And so it's just this big ass book. And instead of having to do this multiplication every time, whenever you had to multiply these numbers, you would just go to this log book, go to the page that had that number on it, and get the answer.
Okay.
One day he notices the first few pages were way more worn than the last pages of the book. And so he thought that was curious. He was like, why am I using these pages more? Well, he did all these different experiments and collected all these different data sets and came up with the law that 1s appear more than 2s appear, and 2s appear more than 3s appear, and so on down all the way until 9. So much so that there's a mathematics spreadsheet on it where I think 1s is like 30.7% or more likely to appear than any other number, and a 2 is like 17%, and it goes on down the line like that. And apparently this is so confirmed that they use it a lot in financials. And so they'll go to companies' books and they'll look up the revenues for the month. They'll apply Benford's law to it. And if, say, the number 3 appears 30% of the time as the first number, 30% of the time, then they know, well, something's off right there, because that's not how it's supposed to go. And so they can go in and kind of filter down and look at specific months or years and look at those invoices to try to see if any fraud was detected. Apparently they use that a lot.
So it does work. It is a functional principle.
It's a law. Yeah.
It's a law. Okay. So it is true. Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
But the caveat is that it can't be human-made numbers, and it has to have variation.
Variation. Okay.
Right. So, one example is like the lengths of all the rivers in the world. You'll have some really long rivers and you'll have some really short rivers. That kind of data set would work. It's all naturally appearing numbers. Where it doesn't work in politics or in voting specifically, it's all human constructed numbers because precincts are made specifically for a certain amount of votes. So, say 1,000 votes. And so
Okay.
what happens is you have a state that may have, I don't know, 500 precincts, but they're all approximately 1,000 votes per precinct.
This doesn't work for a gallon of milk because a gallon of milk is a set thing.
Right. It's defined.
Okay.
Right.
So this is for undefined, naturally occurring numbers.
Yes.
But human population doesn't count, or it does count?
It does count because it's natural. The number of votes in a precinct isn't natural because that precinct is created for a specific number of votes.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It's a unit. They're units.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It's unitized. Okay. Like a gallon of milk or a foot or whatever. They're all the same.
Right.
Okay.
Kind of like a jurisdiction, something like that. And so all these people have come out and said, well, if you look at Benford's law, I mean, there's anomalies all over the place that, Biden has all these crazy numbers that just don't make sense. Well,
right.
The issue is that in Benford's law, it specifically says that it doesn't work on
voter tallies. Yeah.
Wow. Now, there is a theory that it could work on the second number because the second number would be naturally produced, but it is still not 100% Benford's law. There's still anomalies that'll happen that you won't be able to say for sure that there's voter fraud. Whereas with Benford's law, you look at, like I said, financials, then you can definitely see where fraud may have occurred. One of the reasons that they say that Benford's law works, going from number 1 to number 2, you have to go 100% of number 1 to get to number 2.
Right.
Whereas if you're number 8, you only have to go an eighth of the way to get to number 9. And so that's one of the theories on why Benford's law actually works and why we see more 1s, 2s, and 3s naturally occur than we do, 7, 8s, and 9. It's because of the length of time or not even time, but
the volume of 1s. There's a lot of 1s.
I just thought that was crazy interesting.
Yeah.
It kind of blew my mind how that is actually a naturally occurring, law now.
Well, it's got me thinking about a lot of things. The Fibonacci sequence has that feel to it where it's like everywhere all the time. It's like a hidden framework that's mathematical. And it's that same kind of like increasing exponential quality.
What is the Fibonacci sequence again?
I honestly don't know, but I know it's something like, I think the number sequence is like what the thing plus itself, I think each time. So it's like 1 and 1 is 2, 1 and 2 is 3, 3 and 2 is 5, 5 and 3 is 8, like that. So it's like, it's exponentially increasing and it makes that spiral. So it's like what's seen in like Nautilus shells. If you plot it makes
I definitely remember the spiral. I never really put together the whole mathematics behind it. I always just looked at it as just use that as a base for composition.
Yeah, like the threes or whatever, or like 2/3.
Yeah, I mean, I just use literally the spiral shape, as assistance in composition. That's what the history teacher Karl Volkmar, he used to use that or display that. Volkmar.
That's such a strange name, man. Karl Volkmar.
I should have named my D&D character Volkmar.
Volkmar. It's pretty great.
I thought I was clever going with Vigo the Carcasian, which I don't know if anybody's got because nobody's really laughed at it like I thought they would, because I laughed at it hard when I thought.
You have an interesting sense of humor, Chad. I think it might be unique.
but you get who it is, right? From Ghostbusters?
Vigo, no, actually, nope.
Vigo the Carpathian. He's
totally
the guy in Ghostbusters too, the painting.
That's why people don't get it. I don't get it either.
Vigo the Carcasian.
The cage, yeah. I mean, it's brilliant, but it's just hard
too brilliant. That's my problem.
It's hard brilliant to look at. No, that's okay though, man. Everybody's got their sense of humor. Like just by myself, like I never do. Do you laugh like whenever you watch a movie by yourself and it's really funny?
I do.
You do? That's interesting. Because they said most people don't.
I've always had this thing where I laugh at probably just about everything, and I think half of it's
like
like nervous laughter, and yeah, it's like a fucking it's Tourette's, that's what it is. It's Tourette's, but it's laughter. I laugh at inopportune times. Somebody will say something serious and I chuckle and I'm like, that's not really funny, but but also look at life very hysterically and laugh at, a lot of things that people might not laugh at. I got detention in high school for laughing because 2 teachers down heard me laughing.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I hated
That's
that
crazy,
bitch.
dude. Yeah, that's pretty.
English
That's pretty
teacher,
shitty.
Mrs. Rest her soul.
I had a Mr. and he was interesting, man. He was a good history teacher, but he was way into. I mean, he taught World War II, so he had a right to be interested in Hitler. But it just seemed,
well,
I mean, but he has to teach it, so I mean, I get it. But then he would call him like his Austrian corporal and like stuff like that. But I mean, he was a good storyteller though. Like he was like an interesting Cajun man. But I mean, he kind of talked like the Kentucky Fried Chicken guy. He'd be like, my little Austrian corporal over here, he's gonna come down here and he's gonna take Russia. Now, in the winter, diesel it bogs down. So you see, he's using diesel, and them Russians, they already know you got to use some gasoline. So whenever their tanks are done, well, they just run right through there. And it's like that'd be like his. But then he would lose his train of thought randomly because he would have seizures.
Oh shit!
He would but it wasn't the kind where you'd shake around or whatever. It was the kind where you just go catatonic. And so he would be like in the middle of one of those stories, and randomly he would just stop. It was funny because like we'd be waiting for it, so just get out of pretty much however much class it takes. But it was mysterious too. There was like an underbelly group of conspiracy theorists that thought maybe he was faking it just to fuck with people, right? But there's always those people, right? So we think they're new, but no, we had those back then.
They just didn't have Facebook to tell everybody.
They just tell you to your face, like, I think he's faking it. Like, okay, because he'd go catatonic, right? And then so it was kind of an experiment because we didn't know what to do. We all felt awkward. He feels awkward, and then you don't know when he's conscious of you because he seems out of it, but then whenever he comes right back in,
clips back in,
and you don't know if he's been doing this shit for a long time. I mean, he's like in his 50s or 60s, I think. I don't know. I think he would have at least the transitioning acting down, because whenever people get older and they forget where they are, they kind of like play it off like, oh yeah,
right,
and it's not like he's doing a lot whenever he's I was gonna say tripping. He's not tripping. But I was thinking like it's not like it's obvious, and so whenever he comes back, he could just easily just pop back in and just not do a lot, and then we're like thinking he's still out and he's just staring off and listening to what everybody's saying about him. So we were always very like cautious about saying or doing anything obvious because you don't know when he's coming back, and it could be in a second, it could be in 5 minutes, whatever. And he usually would look at you like at your direction, like at you, like, but like how a bird might do it, like just staring at you. And just it was creepy to us. His face had no emotion to it at the time.
Well, the dude's having strokes.
No, it's not strokes. It's seizures.
Oh, seizures. Okay.
I don't know if that's any better.
Right.
But I mean, it's mysterious though, and it definitely was at the time. Like we had no idea how seizures worked or but we didn't know. And it's like electrical activity, right? Just
I have a cousin that has epilepsy. She had issues growing up, but she never really knew what it was until she became an adult. Like she didn't get diagnosed. So I don't know if they know what causes it, but yeah, it's definitely like electrical firings in the brain go haywire or something like that.
I could see that. And it kind of reminds me of whenever people talk about synesthesia and like their senses kind of bleed a little bit into one another. So you end up with sights, like whenever you see something, you hear something, or you smell something, or that's fascinating to me because it shows that there has to be some inner working between them possible, like structurally or something. Like they have to be able to talk to each other in some fashion, or it's the way maybe inside the brain, the way it's like.
I've never heard of that.
I think it's like acid does it, and certain people just have it where they'll hear, like they'll see the number 6 and they'll taste blueberries.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
or they
or
can
they'll
taste numbers or whatever.
or like shapes or colors, and yeah, all their senses are connected. So then I wonder, okay, since there are people that have all these senses connected, what does that mean about how our senses connect? Like maybe if they bleed like that, does that mean that they're actually, I don't know, like that maybe they talk back and forth more than we think and we just don't notice?
What do you mean if the senses bleed into each other?
Yeah, right. I mean, I guess it's a phantom though. It's not real information, right? Like whenever you look at 6 and you smell blueberries, there's no real blueberries.
Right. Well, yeah, there has to be something else in there because, like, why would it be blueberries?
Yeah, it's a memory thing.
Right. Because even if you could smell, your senses are connected, and so you could smell a number.
That's just weird.
Why is your brain picking blueberries and not,
yeah,
more of or sheet metal or something? You know what I mean?
Sheet metal. Smells like sheet metal. Are you cooking? I love whenever you cook chicken. It smells like sheet metal.
Well, that's interesting. So people that have that, is the smell consistent? So do they always smell blueberries on 7, or can they smell something else?
Yeah. No, and I've heard that people, the memory champions or whatever, people that are really good at remembering like pi to the millionth decimal place, I've heard that they typically have some fashion of this because they'll look at someone and they free associate all this crap, and so they'll look at them and they'll think like that's Bob, he's bald or something, he looks like a bowling pin, Bob the bowling pin, and then he is set up over here because he's a bowling pin, and then this is Tina is short, Tina the top, she spins around, so she spins down and she knocks down, fuck, I already forgot his name.
Well, there's just like Phil on Modern Family. He does these associations for people's names. It's fucking hilarious.
He looked like the drummer from Foreigner. A Foreigner's from France. France rhymes with ants. Ants ruin a picnic. What's up, Nick?
That's exactly what I was thinking of whenever you're like, Bob, he's bald. He's,
yeah, right.
He looks like a bowling pin.
That's what they do. And they have a little house in their head. And it's.
Oh, you're talking about the mathematician people, not the.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, not the Sinestesias. But those people have an advantage with that kind of stuff because they automatically have associations that help them remember things. Like instead of just remembering 6, they remember blueberry and 6. It's counterintuitive though, because you'd think instead of remembering your cell phone number, you just want to be able to have access to it and you don't have to remember it.
There's no benefit to having that in memory.
Yeah,
dude,
right.
I mean, yeah, dude, I had a page that would go in my wallet with like all my different numbers on it. I mean, obviously you remember your number and like a couple of your friends that
your mom
you call
or whatever,
all the time or whatever, right? But like,
and I might still remember some numbers. Like I almost remember my old number. I remember 337-824, but then I don't remember any of the rest.
337-898. Oh.
It sounds like you're doing a placement, like an ad placement. Like what?
Call now, 337. Actually, don't call that number because I have no idea who that number is for. Well, I think the only reason I remember it because one of my friends, Bruce, lived in New Iberia, and his number was 367. So we had like the same number, except his was 367, and mine was 898.
There's a lot of coincidences like that. That like if you're not a sane person, you just run with it. With older people, man, it's so sad how they like prey on them with these, because I get it. So like they're pitching it at me, thinking I guess I fit into their demographic. Maybe it's the way I live. I don't know. They think I'm older than I am, but like I get all this elderly shit.
From where or from what?
Scams, just
like
scams
email
and crap,
or something.
I email. I get actual physical mail that's like asking me to do dumb shit. Like, oh, give us your money. Trust us. We love America. It's like just stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like they think I'm like a totally different person or something. Or they're just scattershotting it. That's kind of creepy.
Shit. The stuff they have on us today is way more creepier than that.
Well, this guy that went missing locally, he went missing in like the 80s, like 81. they couldn't find the guy. They kind of ended up giving up the search. Well, come to find out, on Google Maps, they were able to see from space or from wherever the hell that's at. They were able to see the back, like there's like a pool, like a pond in the back, and they could see through the pond and see his car in the pond.
Oh wow.
Like they could see his car from Google, and they went and checked it out, and that was his car where he disappeared 40 years ago. What kind of
camera would that be? I mean, that wouldn't be infrared. Like, how would you, like, what kind of camera would you see?
No. It was clear enough.
Oh, the lake was clear enough.
The water was clear enough that they could see down through the water.
In Jennings?
Which is why I said, I know, it's grain of sand. But it got me thinking, I wonder what they really could do. Because then she said, oh, now they have Google Live if you want to pay for it. And I was like, Google Live? That doesn't sound like solicited enough for that kind of hushed language. Like, what do you mean you got to pay for it? And then she's like, oh, if you use Google to like search for stuff or, on their map, then what you see may be, 5 years old.
Right.
If you use Google Live, you get real time capture of anywhere on the world through Google's eye. And I was like, how's that possible? Does that mean there's floating cameras everywhere? Because you can't, if you're directing it, then how do I direct it? Like, how are we directing the same eye to look at different things? How many eyes are there? Can you just split the eye somehow? Or
right. Unless, there's multiple satellites, which I'm assuming there already is, because how can Google Earth capture the whole planet on one satellite unless it's like super far?
Yeah. Well, and that reminds me of all the garbage in space. Like all that belt, there's like a derelict satellite belt.
Would you hear the thing that's like supposed to be flying by us? I want to say in the next couple of days, supposed to be like the closest thing that's ever flown to
in
Earth.
2020 with a bang.
It's like 31,000 miles away or something, which is less than the moon is from the Earth. Yeah, apparently they think it's a piece of space junk from a 1960 rocket or something like that.
Okay.
That it somehow got captured by the Earth's orbit. And I think they said maybe 2023 or something like that. It's supposed to fly out of our orbit and get captured into the sun's orbit, at which point it'll just get disintegrated or whatever.
Nice.
Yeah. But
recycling.
Yeah.
That's the first like alley-oop recycling method. We're like, whoop.
Right. Well, but the headline was scientists see something flying towards Earth, but it's not an asteroid.
UFO, right?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. So I get into it or whatever. They can't tell exactly what it is, but then they said, it looks like trash from a 1960s rocket.
It's just not what I expected at all. Like I thought it would be something more epic, but it's still dangerous, right? If that thing actually comes in.
Well, it makes you think like, well, holy shit. I mean, that's the 60s. I don't know how much shit we have in space right now, but you'd think, I thought that would have been like, long gone, past Pluto or whatever, but it's like,
no, just hanging out.
Yeah, it's being captured by the gravities of all these different planets, including ours. And
yeah, it seems odd whenever they say, oh, it's going to just leave our solar system soon, but it's been here since the 60s. So you're saying like it's hanging out for 40 something years and it's like, okay, bye. And it just leaves. Or like, how does that work?
It has to be something to do with the gravitational pull of at least the Earth. I don't even know if other planets, I'm sure some other planets have gravity, but then again, maybe not because they don't have atmospheres.
No, gravity's a thing. Like gravity's every planet.
You sure?
So we're all, everything.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess it's the spin of the planet that causes some of the gravity.
I think it's just mass. I think the spin causes electromagnetism. Like that's where the electrical aspect happens, I think. Because whenever you spin stuff, it makes electricity. I'm just talking shit, but we should have.
Right.
You need to quickly call Jason right now. Like, dude, we need your expertise.
We're curious about a lot. We just don't know about a lot.
That's it. I would agree with that. We're very curious beings. We're like kittens. I heard that Google and other companies like them, an ever-growing number of companies want to put up grid of satellites that are geosynchronous, that are completely covering everything for GPS. There's one for Google Earth, all these different services. So there's like thousands of satellites kept in orbit in a distinct pattern, despite all this junk.
Well, how many satellites do we have now?
I don't know. It's a very interesting question, though. And then how much junk also, you know?
So we already have 6,000 satellites.
Like total?
About 60% of those are defunct satellites, space junk, and roughly 40% are operational.
Good Lord. It's mostly junkyard.
Yeah.
And then how many are there? How many are, I've heard they're going to launch like 30,000 more pretty soon, like mini satellites. And I thought, oh man, it's such a bad seeming idea.
Yeah, this article says SpaceX, OneWeb, and Amazon are planning to launch tens of thousands of internet satellites.
Isn't that fucking nuts? Like, given what we just talked
I don't
about?
understand what that's all for. I mean, how would it make GPS better? Like,
I think something about just coverage, like having a more complete, I think granular is probably the word that the news would use, like a granular control, or I don't know. I honestly don't know. The real danger is more difficult to do space missions because
I was about to say that
we have an ever-growing debris belt. The issue is the satellites we track. The other things I think they still track, the dead satellites, but there's a lot of junk too. There's a lot of just crap. So that's unknown.
tens of thousands out there. I mean, at which point is there no path for anything to fly off the planet?
Yes. So if they launch 30,000 new ones that are, or however many tens of thousands, but a bunch of new ones, just imagine. And I think all that stuff's traveling. What was that movie? There was one movie. It had Sandra Bullock as the lead. She's stuck in space.
Sandra Bullock.
She's stuck in space. It's just her.
What was that, Gravity?
Gravity. Yeah. That was a badass movie. I think it was Sandra Bullock. Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, that was a badass movie, man. And that's what it was kind of talking about, was just all this rogue shit. That's why she was in danger, because she was stuck in this belt of like 30,000 mile an hour moving. Everything's 30,000. It was a good movie though. I really enjoyed it. But you were talking about, what is it? What's the name of the law again?
Oh, Benford's Law?
Benford's Law. So I thought about some other stuff too. With so it's basically that the lower the number is on the scale, the more the more it'll show up in life. Is that kind of the idea? There'll be more ones than nines.
Right.
And like a gradient.
Right.
Okay. Just because of the structure. Well, it got me thinking about elements, because like helium is one. I guess you could think of it that way, like atomic numbers. And and so, but you just have to have more of them because you need them to make the next thing, right? And then to make the next thing. So you have to have the most helium because that's just the most numerous thing.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So it applies there too. And then with dice, you're going to get far more rolls of like 5 and 7, I think, than you were going to get of 2.
But I don't think it would work on dice because dice have a limited set of
it's
6.
Not infinite.
It's their limited number.
I got you.
Right.
I got you. That's a good point.
And it's not naturally occurring. One example, I think it was on Radiolab. They said you could take your Instagram followers and look at their followers, and Benford's Law would apply, and so you could essentially spot bots. So the way you would do it is you'd have to go to each one of your followers. Say my first follower is you. Let's see how many followers you have. I'd write that number down. Then I'd go to the next person, see how many followers they have, write that number down. And the first number is where Benford's Law gets applied. Once you have all those numbers, you run your stats. How many 1s do you have? How many 2s do you have? How many 3s do you have? And you run it against those percentages. So, 1 should be about 30%, 2 should be about 17%.
Wow.
And the percentages, they have it knocked down to like, I don't remember exactly, but I think it's like 14.6 for 3s or something like. They have it.
Whoa. So you're saying that the distribution should match. It's like you're checking a lottery hat and you're dumping it all to make sure that there are the appropriate amounts of all of the expected numbers.
Right.
And if there's a lot of one number, then that means something's off, because it should always be like
Correct.
this. Okay.
So say, you get to your 3s and it's supposed to be, again, I don't know if this is correct, but 14.6, but you notice that it's actually 17%. Well, you can go into all your Instagram followers that have a following that starts with the number 3, and somewhere in there you will find quote unquote fraud or whatever. So you probably find a bot or something somewhere in there.
Whoa.
That's how they narrow it down. So like with financials, so if you take in the monthly revenue for a company and you're putting all these numbers in this list, and you find that your threes again are, have 20% of your numbers are threes, you go back to all the months that you had a revenue that the first number started with 3. That gives you a head start, so you're not having to go through all of the years to find, or all the months of the year to find the fraud. You start with your threes because that's where it's off according to Benford's law.
Wow.
And it works. Like that's what they do.
So that might be how people get audited, how they become a target for auditing.
The interview I heard didn't really say who they were, so I don't know. I don't know if that's like accounting people or the IRS, or
right.
I don't know if it's standard process or whatever, but it is definitely one of them.
It's like you're hacking data to see where it's like you're troubleshooting data.
Well, and you think about it, because if you're fudging numbers, you're going to try to space your numbers out. At least I would have, to be like, well, I've already had 13,000, let me put like 37,000, or, you try to space your numbers out.
Right.
And that's what causes the anomaly. And that's what Benford's law picks up.
Okay. So it's just so it's almost like, I'm thinking about deepfakes again. It's like, if you look at it as a whole, it looks fine. But then if you look at the actual data, you can see, oh no, there's something real weird here. It's not right.
Radiolab actually mentioned something about being able to predict deepfakes with it. Somehow, according to the number of saves.
Oh, wow.
Or something to do with the saves. But that doesn't make sense to me, because whenever I save a photo, I mean, I can look at the metadata and it doesn't show me. Now, maybe I don't have the right program or whatever, but if I change the file name and I scrub the metadata, I really don't know how they'd be able to find out how many times that photo's been saved. So I'm not exactly sure how that works, but it's a potential. I don't know if they've done it yet, but it's a potential way to find or identify deepfakes.
Okay. I know that one is they look for the shine in your eye, like to see if the shine looks like that little highlight. Apparently that is easy to get wrong with deepfakes, so they just check for that, because like it's such a small detail that I think has to be accurate with the lighting situation. And so like if your head is different than the whole lighting situation, it would show right there.
Very interesting. Yeah, because you could change the lighting on whatever side of the face. You can make one darker, one lighter.
So you could edit some of that stuff, but then it's like, it depends on how much time and effort you put in, I guess. We just watched War Games the other night.
I have that saved on my DVR. I haven't watched it again yet.
Man, it's pretty good. It's one of those movies where like the whole time you're engaged and you're like, what's happening now? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. They're back here. It's like, there wasn't one moment where I was like, okay, this movie's getting boring. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, that was one of the first movies that that dude was in. What's his name again?
Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, I know. I know. That's all I know too. Is like
Matthew Broderick. Duh.
Matthew Broderick. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Oh man, another good show is Truth Seekers. Another Amazon show.
Haven't heard that one.
It's with Nick Frost and is it Simon Pegg? The guys that did the zombie movie, Shaun of the Dead.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love that guy.
It's the two British guys that they were in Paul, and they did a
Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz. Well, it's an Amazon show, and Simon Pegg, he's not as big as a part in it as Nick Frost is, but Nick Frost,
interesting.
He is a cable installer by day and a YouTube ghost chaser by night. It's really fucking cool, man. Like,
okay,
it feels very much like a horror series.
Okay, like Shaun of the Dead or Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
No, more like I guess The Ring. Like,
like genuine, like unsettling. Oh,
but then there's also humor, and it's still Nick Frost. You know what I mean? Like, it's pushing some boundaries. It's like trying to keep those boundaries together, and they don't belong together, but it's doing it. Wow. Yeah, because it's definitely creepy. There's 8 episodes. For whatever reason, I'm noticing that Amazon does seasons of like 8 episodes. I just went and watched The Boys on there, but they're only 8 episodes each, and that's whenever I went to this one, Truth Seekers. I noticed this one was only 8 episodes, and I was like, is that like a fucking Amazon thing? Because that sucks. Dude, The Boys is fucking good, man. Like,
okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah, even just check out the first episode because
that'll get you hooked, huh? That's what you're saying. Just try that first hit, man. Just try a little bit.
It's a very different superhero like take on superheroes than anything really. They're very humanistic and aren't exactly good yet.
Yeah, like anti-hero.
Yeah. So the whole premise is there's this company called Vought that is like a marketing company, I guess. There's one main group called the Seven, and that's like the top 7 superheroes. Vought makes all this merchandise and like they make movies and commercials and TV shows. It's all this very highly produced stuff with these actual superheroes. Yeah. And so these people are just born with these different powers. And it's very much the same Marvel kind of, there's Deep, which is kind of like Aquaman.
Okay.
He has gills and he can talk to like all sea creatures. That's kind of funny. It's kind of cool. Homelander is like the head guy. He's basically Superman. He has he can fly. He has the lasers for eyes, strong as steel, all that stuff. But then there's this group of people that are kind of fighting against the superheroes. I don't want to give out. I don't want to.
Yeah. I'll check it out.
But like, dude, the first episode, one of the first scenes, you're gonna be like, "Holy shit, what the fuck just happened?"
Okay. Yeah. I'll check it out. And we can talk about that one next time.
All right, dude. Guess I'll catch you later.
All right. Later.
Thanks for listening to Armchair Radio. We release a new podcast every Tuesday, so please click that follow button so you can hear what we talk about next. If you're interested in any of the topics that we've covered, check out our website, armchairradiopodcast.com, where we have links to everything in our show notes. And if you've enjoyed the show, please share with your friends. We're available on iTunes, Spotify, and everywhere else podcasts exist. Thanks again for listening, and hope to see you next time.